Hey there everyone, y'all ready for some Henri's Way?
Yeah.
We are Dragonpike 1 and Mekkah, and you are watching Chapter 11 of my FE12 Maniac Mode 0% Gross playthrough. So Chapter 11 is another desert map, but unlike Chapter 9, this one is almost entirely desert. There's a few bone tiles strewn throughout this version of the map, which is actually a boon to more casual players that might decide to make the mistake of trudging Marth across the entire desert. But honestly, I think the game is trying very hard at this point to tell you that if you're not deploying a full complement of Draco Knights along with a rescue user or two in this chapter, then you're kind of going about things the wrong way.
I don't know, man. No one could ever accuse me of not using enough Draco Knights, but I still hate this chapter because Marth gets impeded, anyone not a Draco Knight or a mage is going to get impeded. It's just super annoying to deal with. And to make it even worse, the enemy composition. We can handle hunters and barbarians, those are like, you know, old news, we've handled those since the prologue. But in this chapter, you also get to face feral dragons, specifically the flying ones with 12 move. And I mean, they have one range here, but they have 1-2 range of Lunatic. They're really fast and they're really strong, and they double some of our units even if they have the Rainbow Potion. So, I don't know, man, I'm not feeling this one. I'm gonna sit this one out. Bye.
Oh no, Mekkah! Please don't leave. Anyway, we have a few tools to deal with these wyverns. They're flying, so obviously they're weak to weapons like bows and the Excalibur. The Excalibur one-shots them at this point in the game, coming from just about any of his users, while the Parthia will one-shot them for basically the entire game. So you don't ever have to worry about these users having good stats. And then the wyverns are also vulnerable to dragon slaying weapons like the Dragonpike that Minerva joined with a couple of chapters ago. We need a little bit more oomph to be able to one-shot them. We actually forge +7 might, which is excessive for these guys, but they're needed for some bulkier dragons in the upcoming chapters. And because these guys are so fast, it's impossible for most of our Draco Knights to be able to double them. Like, the only one that can do it is Palla after she ate like 5 Speedwings or something like that. So we do need like the extra might to be able to one-shot them for good enough offense.
Yeah, so in this map, we're kind of going to treat our rescue users as our lords because Marth is not going to move far enough, and instead we're going to deploy rescue users to get him across because magic users don't get impeded. We start off with something weird. We have Palla attack this hunter from 2 range and take a ton of damage in return. That's because, well, Draco Knights in this chapter are just really busy and they have very particular positioning. They have to take care of enemies in such a way that our rescue users and more fragile people like Marth and George and Sita are safe. But they also have to pick up hidden items. Just like most desert maps in Fire Emblem, there's hidden items, but thankfully in this game, any class can pick them up, so we don't have to deploy thieves or employ weird reset strats to pick them up reliably. We just have a 100% chance to do it with our Draco Knights or anyone, really. And the last thing that we need our Draco Knights to do is help with rescue boosting a couple of people.
So the skeleton for the strategy that we used in this chapter was devised by Gradivis way back when. And the gist of it is that we use one rescue user to rescue a second rescue user, and the second rescue user rescues Marth to get him all the way to the gate. And for both rescue uses, we have to employ a rescue boost because Marth is trying to go up and left, and the innate rescue priority doesn't work in our favor. So adapting it to this playthrough, there are 3 challenges. The first is figuring out how to kill all the enemies that are going to threaten us. The second is making sure that everyone survives because many of the components of this strategy use very squishy units. And the third challenge is figuring out how to get all the items that we need. So in a gross playthrough, we can get away with like skipping the Speedwings because you can just gain a few more levels or massage your level ups to compensate for that. But in this playthrough, the Speedwings are very important, and they're located in the bottom left corner of the map. And to get them, that's like the only reason why we had to promote Milicia, so that she would have enough movement to reach those Speedwings on turn 4 before we seize the gate. We do something really weird here. We send Wendell to the front of our pack with no weapons. In fact, he has a physics staff and 4 star shards, and he's also in range of 3 wyverns, which seems extremely dangerous, but because of the Scorpio shard he has, he's not doubled by them, and he just barely survives 1 hit. The 2 wyverns that move first, they see Etzel, and they notice that he's a juicier target because he gets doubled, and they can do a lot more damage to him, but they ignore the fact that he has Excalibur equipped, and he one-shots them midway through. So we had to give Etzel an Angelic Robe, a Rainbow Potion boost, and some defensive star shards to guarantee that he survives 2 hits, and then he eliminates those 2 wyverns for us, thus making everything safe for everyone else.
Minerva did something really weird on turn 2 player phase. She used the hot flare, but not in the way she usually does by bashing someone's skull in, but she just used it to heal 10 HP, like a vulnerary. The advantage for Don here with that is that it doesn't cost him any gold, and he doesn't need all the hot flare uses to attack with. But in a normal playthrough, this is not advisable because it's just such a huge waste of a hot flare use. This enemy phase coming up is kind of weird. We use a save points to manipulate and crit on the enemy hunter that's going to attack Wendell. He took over the Excalibur from Etzel. This Excalibur use here is why we gave him an arm scroll all the way back in Chapter 7, because the next best option for a crit will be Thoron, and that has less crit than the Excalibur does. The hunter could also attack Minerva, and that sounds good because Minerva doesn't counter and she's weak to bows, but because we healed her, he cannot kill either of them, and in that case he prefers to attack the one with lower luck, which is Wendell.
This last enemy phase looks very scary for Wendell because we put him in range of a wyvern that could just fly up to him and kill him, but he doesn't because all of the enemies in this last part of the map have a linked AI, and they don't move until you end your turn within a certain distance of the gate, and we can bypass all of that just by using the rescue staff. If you're a casual player who doesn't know how the linked AI works, this last part of the map can look really scary, but it's kind of like a scarecrow. It looks more scary than it actually is, but if you don't sneak past things, things can get out of hand really quickly.
So Sida, just like in Shadow Dragon, recruits Jake, and Jake mentions in his recruitment conversation that he is looking for Anna. He was pretty close to her actually, and by trading him the silver card and the VIP card, he finds out where she is, hiding out in the secret shop. We buy one Dragonpike here because it's all the money that we have. But if you're a casual player, you'll probably want to buy a couple more. You can buy up to 3 Wormslayers and 3 Dragonpikes here, and those will be very useful in the upcoming chapters.
Before we conclude this map, we have George visit the save point to help manipulate a Kittlenance critical onto the Master Sword Swordmaster, and we do this because the Master Sword is worth a lot of money when sold, and Sirius can also pick up the energy drop in the same action. There are 10 total hidden desert items in this chapter, of which we can only pick up 5, and of the 5 they missed, a couple of more notable ones are the Draco Shield and the Arm Scroll, which maybe could have helped us a bit further down the road, but we're able to make do without them. So that's chapter 11 finished in 4 turns, and we will see you next time.
See ya.